Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And, you know, you're a pretty analytical guy, Dr. Lopkin. You also can be very creative, but you don't prone to cry. But so I don't want you to cry now. Uncle Joe is leaving. Scranton Joe. Scranton Joe, Amtrak Joe, who started his really interesting. Mark Kelly has a great show on Newsmax. Showed the picture of his house when he first got into politics. It was Fixer Upper or something. You basically wouldn't bring like a lot of chicks there because they'd probably leave like that old show, The Munsters. And he just happened to amass like 3 mansions but he's a public servant. That's my little interjection. But go ahead, the floor is yours.
Yeah, he's spent 50 years in public service. Yes, and over those 50 years, the Biden family has benefited tremendously. So much, in fact, that all of his siblings required preemptive pardons.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I don't want to distract you from this important topic. It really is. But we also need to talk about there's growing arguments that these preemptive pardons might not hold up. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll discuss that in a little bit, but that is true. And quite frankly, I want the Supreme Court to weigh in because nobody's ever done this before. And in fact, in 2020, the Democrats were up in arms over the thought that Trump might do this to people, which of course he didn't.
It's called projection.
Yep.
Anyway, so back to Uncle Joe, Lunch Pail Joe.
Yeah, I think the best way to bid farewell to Joe is to point out some of the results from the final Gallup poll, where America weighed in on what Joe had done to the country over the past 4 years. The federal debt, 67% of the country say we're worse off. Immigration, 64% of the country say we're worse off. The gap between the wealthy and the least well off, 60% of the country say we're worse off. The economy, 59% of the country say we're worse off. The U.S.'s position in the world, 58% say we're worse off. I could keep going, but quite frankly, the only measure that the American people thought we improved over the last 4 years,
LGBTQ.
yes, was the relations with the LGBTQ community. Everything
Amazing.
else, the American people have said, no, we are worse off now than we were 4 years ago. Which, that was the question. Reagan famously asked that question in 1980. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Um, and also, quite frankly, and I have seen some liberal pundits admit to this through gritted teeth, but there is a unified feeling in this country, other than the extreme left, that can only be compared to Reagan's Morning in America.
No question about it. And just little things to get back to the numbers is the aggregates 36% approval rating. And just to put it in perspective, Jimmy Carter had a 46 when he left. And I do 100% agree with Bill O'Reilly. He's not just a pundit, he's an historian and an author. He he ranks Joe Biden as the second worst president ever, not in modern history, ever, next to behind James Buchanan, who essentially started the Civil War. Um, he will comments after this. He will go down with the only thing you could say about him is crickets. You know, there'll be no discussion. He will be about as irrelevant as I don't know, the Beach Boys No New World Tour or something. It's done. I mean, no books, no library, no discussions, no mention about, well, when Biden did that, like anything you can point to Carter, the Middle East Accords, nothing, nothing, nothing. And the other thing sometimes be careful what you wish for, or karma's a bitch, however you want to say it, is he has no time to recover. Jimmy Carter left office, he was probably 60. He had 40 years to reinvent himself, which he did. There is no time. As Keith says, time waits for no one. Good song,
Well,
by the
it's
way.
it's
Your
not even
thoughts?
it's not even just a matter of him not having the time to reinvent himself. He doesn't have the ability.
A
More
good
and
point,
more
yes.
more and more people are coming out and saying, "Yes, we knew he was mentally unfit. We didn't want to say anything. We didn't want to get in trouble by reporting it." But the evidence is clear that he did not have his mental faculties when he ran for office, never mind even during the office.
Okay, how big of a scandal is this? If Watergate, which I don't believe, is a 10, I consider this a 15 because Watergate is a bunch of shit compared to this. This was national security. We could have got we could have easily gotten in a nuclear war. This guy was there was no one in charge. And
Yeah,
even
that
what's his name, Lloyd Austin, he went AWOL twice. The hell's that? You could
and,
lose a job in marketing doing that.
and that's the big problem. And I hope the Justice Department does actually investigate, even if nobody is actually tried or sentenced. The American people deserve to know the truth about what was going on.
Yes, and I think something about Washington, things don't happen or do happen as a result of power. People don't say anything because another job depends on it, or he or she, or in this case he, left as a a powerful president or senator. You name it. Who cares, right? There is no power, and therefore I think it's going to be a floodgate of books, revelations that he was with the Pope and he shit himself. It's going to happen like there's no tomorrow. Some good books and some just riding the coattails. Mr. Biden will not have a book. And speaking of books, Kamala's book, do you think she'll trash him?
I don't know if she will or not. I think she has to walk a very fine line. She has to tell what happened. But the fact of the matter is, if she comes out now trashing him after being on the campaign trail and swearing up and down that he was fine, that, she wouldn't have changed a thing, I think that takes what little possibility she has of a career left and flushes it down the toilet.
I think it's done anyway. I mean, you could say it's partisan. Democrats don't like her. They had that with Lisa Lee. She was a big fundraiser. She has actually flipped to the Republicans. Um, no, one thing about and then look at what happened at the funeral. It was I've
Yes.
never seen someone and at the some gala in New York. I forgot what that was, Kennedy Center or something. Yikes!
Yeah.
Yeah, you would
Demo-
get more attention, Dr. Lopkin.
Democrats are distancing themselves from Harris like I've never seen
Never
before.
seen something
I
like
don't
this.
I don't honestly I don't now granted I was a little young at the time, but I don't even think the Republicans distanced themselves from Nixon this fast.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on chumbacasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's chumbacasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
No, no, they actually didn't. He had some. He had actually a group. I'm going to say of 30% of Republicans still supported him. Um, and the other thing about it is when you compare Nixon with Biden, getting to our point, he kind of resurrected his stature in the world and in America. He wrote several books, and by the way, they may not have admitted it, most of them did, that many presidents called Richard Nixon. How many people? The only call Biden will get is a clarification call from Domino's. Is it pepperoni or sausage?
Yeah, I think there is a major difference, and I think it's best illustrated by the fact is just before he passed away, Ted Kennedy had said his big regret in terms of policy and politics was that he didn't listen to Richard Nixon when it came to a health care bill. That was his big regret. Nobody is ever going to look back and go, I really should have listened more to Joe Biden.
Never. You would probably do that when they're taking you away in a straitjacket to a hospital. I should have, yeah, and then you're going to accelerate the whole process. Um, yeah, I now what do you think it means for Joe? He's bitter, he's angry. What's left of his cognizant mind, I think he's pretty PO'd. I think Jill's going to be more interesting. I think, and I heard this is not my own doing, that she lived with she was a senator's wife. That's beats the hell out of being like a teacher's wife or something. But certainly, she was with everyone considered him a loser. 3 times as a failed presidential candidate, and not just failed, just disgraced, and kind of not the brightest bulb. Blah blah blah. The list goes on. That's going to belabor the point. Now she's got to go to Delaware. None of the trappings. No Vogue magazine. No interviews. How do you like that? And she's stuck with a guy shitting in his pants. Not a happy camper.
No, I don't think it is. And again, I think there is a historical comparison to when Reagan left office. Reagan, we all know, was suffering from dementia near the end of his second term,
Yes, he was.
and he still managed to go out to a hero's farewell. And Nancy was more than happy to spend the rest of her life protecting him and taking
No
care of
doubt.
him. I do not think Jill will do the same thing. I think Jill is going to end up being as bitter as he is because she's not going to be viewed with, I mean, first of all, she never accomplished anything as first lady anyway, but she's going to be looked on as one of the key drivers in hiding his condition from the American people.
Exceptionally good point. She's in on the gig, and she didn't do much. Like a lot of first ladies have, I don't know, they did something like poor kids for reading, blah, blah, blah. She didn't do much of that. She was all self engrossed, just referred to Hunter's correspondence with her or feelings about her, and she was in on the deal. She's going. They're both going to be on an island, not literally but figuratively.
And not Nantucket. They're going to
There you
Gilligan's
go.
Island. It's
Yes, pretty much. No library, whatever. We won't have to belabor this point. Two unhappy campers, but it is a new day in America. You look at hostages in Israel. That was, and Biden, again, came across as an angry, bitter guy. Someone said, "Did Trump have anything to do with this?" He goes, "What is that, a joke?" Just came out as not good.
yeah.
It was all Trump. All Trump. Let's cut the shit.
Well, we
All
we
Trump.
know we know it was Trump, and any partisanship, forget all about that. Saudi Arabia representative said it was all Trump. Qatar's representative said it was all Trump. Benjamin Netanyahu said it was all Trump. All of the people
Wait a
in the
second. Before you go any further, how happy is the Middle East? Not just Israel. Well, Iran's very unhappy, but the rest of the players who are looking for some type of a stability piece in them, including Saudi Arabia, others, Jordan, so on and so forth. Are they doing the rumba right now? In Israel, they
oh
must be like New Year's. That makes New Year's look like a joke.
Oh, Israel was more excited that Trump got elected than America was. Uh,
Yes.
Across the Middle East, yes, there is this massive sigh of relief because they know from Trump's first term how he kept Iran in check. They know he's going to do the same thing again. And now it's much more important that he does that because the UN watchdog just said Iran is a hair's breadth away from nuclear weapons.
That's not going to happen. It would happen under Biden. It will not happen under Trump. There is no way. No
No, and,
way.
and you have the countries of the Abraham Accords united against Iran. They're thrilled that you know Trump is in office again because Biden never did anything, and you saw that every time OPEC came to a vote about the oil supply. They had no respect for Biden. Trump, they respect.
You know something? Maybe he won't be lunch pail Joe. Maybe he'll be Joe, the Rodney Dangerfield of the presidency. I like that. Kind of on a roll today. But yes, you look at all this, then you look at what's happening with Trump. He does his inauguration address, and I kind of broke with tradition and kind of trashed Lunch Pail Joe.
Well, not only did
Trashed
he
him.
did he trash Joe and by extension Kamala,
Yes.
he laid out exactly what he was going to do to put America back on track, which is unique for an inaugural address. Most inaugural addresses are full of platitudes and celebration and very short on policy. He was very specific about policies he was going to enact in order to bring the United States back to, as he said, a place of glory. And I think Dana Perino
And
on Fox,
normalcy.
yeah, I think Dana Perino on Fox said it best. While he was giving the speech, the camera would flip over to Joe Biden, and it looked like Joe was getting smaller and smaller and
Yes.
smaller as the speech went on.
No doubt. And Kamala was getting more pissed and more pissed. She was ballistic. Just not in a happy mood. They've been losing to him. The trashing of Biden is essentially a quasi trashing of her as she's a part of the administration. It was a takedown and deservingly so. And it was personal because Biden, in his depleted sense still went after Trump with weaponizing the judicial department. It was an orchestrated effort. There's no love lost, and rightfully so. But it's really interesting. There might be some trouble in paradise there ever was the paradise. Michelle not attending the inauguration or Jimmy Carter's funeral, and just came out. I'm talking seconds ago that Kamala is blaming, not entirely, but putting some of the blame. That's much on her husband. Mm, I'm not a
Yeah.
marriage therapist, but that can't be good.
Well, there had been talk prior to this that Kamala's husband had been having affairs. So it would not
Yeah, with
surprise me
babysitters.
for, yeah, it would not surprise me for that marriage to fall apart. There's now a lot of talk that the whole reason Michelle Obama was not at these events is because her and Barack Obama are getting divorced. And you know what? I have no respect for Michelle Obama. I never did, but now I have even less because this is a national tradition. You don't let your personal feelings for your spouse keep you from paying respect to a fallen president. I'm not even going to
I,
talk about the inauguration. You know, fine, you want to pass on the inauguration, go right ahead. But this was somebody that had quite a lot in common with Barack Obama, and she just blew off.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to chumbacasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa Welcome Bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hillary was there. Every first lady that was still alive was there, except
if
for her.
If you do the math, and it's not just Jerry Springer-ish, whatever. It certainly strongly suggests to a marriage problem. Yes, you're married. I've been married. You might go to some house that maybe your spouse or maybe you don't like. You go. You go
Right.
if it's an event, a funeral or whatever. It's so. I actually do think there is a problem, and I think if Kamala's pointing it out in public that she blames in part, not in total, obviously, to her defeat to her husband, that's obviously not a good sign. But I do think there is trouble in paradise, and I think some of these marriages were always based on a mutual
Convenience.
power grab.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, would say that again.
A mutual convenience.
Exactly. So once, first of all, let's be honest. Michelle and Barack, that train it's a bullet train now. It was a little chung chung to the engine that could. It's a bullet train and it has left the station. Am I not correct?
Yeah.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Their legacy is done. In fact, there are questions right now about who is actually in charge of the Democratic Party, who has the power.
No
And
one.
I mean, Obama is one of the people that's mentioned as possibly being able to, but the fact that they're even questioning whether or not a former president is good has enough power over the party to actually right the ship, that shows that the ship has sailed.
I think, and this is not just partisanship. You had Bill Maher basically saying, "Hey, don't kid yourself. Parties don't last forever." Um, Look what happened to the Whig Party. That was a major party. They are skirting on the edges of irrelevancy. They need to get their shit together, and if they don't, they're going to be a coastal elite party. And with the fires in LA, that might be falling apart too. And speaking of falling apart as it relates to the fires, it was a DEI meltdown. The three lesbian fire chiefs who had no clue of what they were doing. There was a water czar who was a DEI hire that her focus was on inclusion. Water? What? Water?
Well,
Yeah, water? And then the other one is Newsom, who has a video of him being never been prouder for blowing up the dams.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the DEI certainly entered into it, but I honestly believe the bigger problem here was Newsom's desire to beat Donald Trump and to run for president. He secured, what was it, 50 mil? I don't even remember if it was million or billion, but $50 million, you know, to Trump proof California. Meanwhile, he ignored the infrastructure problems.
I have to
He was,
interject. I have to interject. Career from a scale of 0 to 10. I thought he was about an 8, even though he didn't deserve it. What is it now? Is there a career?
I honestly, I think the voters of California are still stupid enough to keep him
Well, the
alive.
voters, yeah,
but,
they're insane. I mean,
but
he
he's
could be
yeah,
the key,
but he's
yeah, the
down to a
basketball.
3 now. Yeah.
There you go. Yes, no question about it. You cannot completely dismiss the DEI
No, but
aspect to this.
I mean, but here's the big problem, and we've heard a number of experts talk about this. California did not take proper care of its wilderness. That did not provide routes out in and out of the wilderness. They did not clear the brush. Why didn't they clear the brush? Because they were told to do so by Donald Trump during his first term. And they went, well, if Trump says to do it, we're certainly not going to do it. And this is the consequences.
I think the consequences are huge. I think the consequences are that you essentially have destroyed any political ascendancy in the short term from California. That includes Newsom or any of the other clowns, including Bass, who was on the short list, by the way, for VP. She is complete. She might actually be recalled. A complete mental midget with a huge radical background and orientations.
Yeah,
so not quite good. And the other thing that's not quite good.
There is a recall movement going on with Bass, and I think the situation in California, if you want an indication as to how serious it is and how badly it's going for the Democrats, I don't think it's a coincidence that when all of this started to happen, Kamala Harris started looking for a home in New York.
No question about it. I would agree 100%. Another thing, talking about creatures of habit, which I believe the Democrats or radical Democrats in L.A., California, and New York, Holcomb, all those other idiots, they can't help themselves, but neither can the liberal media. MSNBC's boss just resigned a week ago. Ratings are plummeting. Totally unbelievable, right? And they just can't seem to. They really can't just seem to help themselves, can they?
And
they can't help themselves with conspiracy theories, with Elon Musk and supposedly his Hitler. I mean, and I love his tweet because he doesn't give a shit. He has FU money. He goes, "You got to stop with the Hitler stuff. That's kind of getting old." And one of his best friends is Jewish, by the way.
Yeah, it is getting old, and the Democrats have been using it for too much. But MSNBC is not learning its lesson. They're not recovering, and I don't think they can at this point. And the reason is simple. We've heard from insiders within MSNBC. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter who the president of MSNBC is. It doesn't matter what corporate is going to do or say, because as of right now, the power behind MSNBC is Rachel Maddow. She is the one calling the shots. So unless corporate comes in and fires her and is prepared for a lot of their staff to follow her out the door, they are not going to fix things. They are doubling down and they're losing viewers left and right.
Isn't it kind of like a Frankenstein scenario? It's like you built this monster, and now the monster's too big. You can't do anything about it. Because I agree with 100% with your assertion. That's exactly what would happen. Um, but I would say if you really want to be a good manager, steward of the organization, this needs to happen. One of their biggest, well, they have many big mistakes. Why did they hire her for 4 days? I mean, that was makes this situation that much worse. But it ain't my problem, is it? But speaking of problems, we one of the problems I see is the Democratic Party, which we talked about, is in a free fall. But then you have people like Chuck Schumer, someone I'm not a big fan of. Schumer, I think in Hebrew means like protector or something, and he's supposed to be Mr. Israel, even though he in the middle of the war basically expressed his opinion that Netanyahu should leave. Not exactly at a great time. So who does he have parading around with him now? His right hand person is Chris Murphy from Connecticut, one of only 20 some odd senators who voted to withhold military aid at a pivotal movement or moment, I should say, to Israel. And Chucky's, you know, dragging him around like the belle of the ball. Two despicable pieces of shit. I
Yeah,
think Schumer's worse than the other one.
it's more than just the two of them because you have this faction of the Democratic Party that has decided that the only way they can move forward is to double down on being anti-Trump and anti-Republican rather than actually serving the people and working across the aisles, which used to be a thing on both sides, but that seems to have gone by the wayside. But you have Schumer yelling how we have to block Trump's nominees because that's how we're going to protect the American people from Trump. You have Murphy, who has been at the forefront of delaying votes for these appointees, cabinet appointees. You have AOC, who went on a rant about how the Defense of Women bill was going to allow sex offenders to attack little girls. And in fact, her and a couple of
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
a couple of other squad members joined her on this rant to the point that a number of very high profile, high dollar Democratic donors came out over the last 48 hours and didn't just say they're not going to donate anymore. They said they're leaving the Democratic Party.
That's the same thing with Lucy Lynn. I believe I have her name right. She was a major fundraiser, very intelligent young woman. She actually is flipped. I think you're going to see that more and more. And it doesn't work, okay? I know marketing, and I saw Chuck Schumer's address with Chrissy Murphy. They're not exactly alpha males, okay?
No.
It's not working. It's not toe to toe with Donald Trump and the Republicans. It's man against boy. It's a joke. Just stop it. Know when you're defeated. Play ball, and you look like complete baboons, just like they did at these hearings, including our own. Another Connecticut senator. You had Blumenthal. It is not my assertion. This is others claiming him and Tim Kaine from Virginia as the two biggest losers in the hearings. They came off like complete idiots.
I'm not so sure about that. Yes, the two of them did come off as complete idiots, but I don't know that they looked worse than the senator from Hawaii. I cannot think of her name.
That's why you're the doctor. She came across as someone that maybe needs mental help. like
And
academic mental health. Like she's really maybe dull normal, I think is the
yeah,
right name,
and
and she's not exactly all there.
it was
Embarrassing.
absolutely amazing how the cabinet nominees handled these folks and made them look ridiculous. And again, the senator from Hawaii was yelling, well, if you had met with me beforehand, we wouldn't have to go through this now. We could get down to issues. And the nominees each told her flat out in front of the cameras, we offered to meet with you. You turned us down.
Well, she's known for years beyond this as someone that's really, really not all that bright. You know what it is? She is the torchbearer now for Uncle Joe, Scranton Joe, in the Senate. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
What comes around goes around. Now, you did have executive order, DEI related, and you had a firing of the Coast Guard, head of the Coast
You've
Guard, whose focus, instead of preventing illegals from crossing or from entering on our shorelines, was completely fixated on DEI. Amazing.
Yeah, you've seen a flurry since noon on January 20th. From at the time that we're recording this, it's almost 3:30 on that following Wednesday on the 22nd. In those 2 days, Donald Trump has done more than Biden did in his first year in office. It has been a flurry. And it is absolutely hysterical listening to the press corps because they're beside themselves. They love this because anytime they ask a question, Trump actually answers them.
Again, contributing to Uncle Joe's, Grand Joe, Amtrak Joe's accelerated isolation and irrelevancy. It'll be quicker than a New York minute. How do you like that? But also quick.
They have another executive order sending 1,500 troops to the southern border.
Yeah, he said he declared first was the executive order to declare the cartels a terrorist organization and a national security threat. That cleared the way to use the military at the southern border. 1,500 troops are now on their way to the southern border. He reenacted remain in Mexico, so nobody is getting in and wandering around the country while they wait for their hearings. He also immediately got rid of Joe Biden's immigration app and cut it
Yes.
off immediately. So he has done more to secure the border in 2 days than Kamala Harris, our border czar, did in 4 years.
Another interesting observation, I'd like your comments or to our listeners, I'm sure, is he never lacked confidence from, but the assuredness of him 2024 versus 2016. He ain't messing around. He knows where the bodies are buried, and he's getting it done, dude.
Yeah, it's a very different Trump because this Trump knows how the game is played. He knows how Washington works now, and he knows what he's up against. Remember, for his first term, not only was he fighting the Democrats, he was fighting a good portion of the Republican Party as well. Now
Yes.
they are falling in lockstep. There's still going to be a few dissenters. That's always going to
Few
happen.
is the operative
Yes.
word. Right now, in the first at least 6 months, I say little to none. How do you like that? Because it's political suicide right now. He is the Republican Party.
Yes, he remade the Republican Party, and what's important is, and he said this himself when he came into office in 2017, he didn't know how many appointments he was going to have to make. He underestimated that. And he trusted the wrong people. He trusted people with a lot of Washington experience. And when they said, oh, this is a good person to put in, he went, okay, put them in. Now he knows better, and he has been involved in the selection of every appointee. He has gone over everybody with a fine tooth comb to make sure that they are on board with the platform that got him elected.
Well, something has to be working because this came across my desk. Rasmussen poll that he's plus 14 in the approval category. He's at 54%, the highest ever he has been. Plus 14.
Yeah, there is again a feeling of unity, even among centrist and center left Democrats. They realize this is somebody they can work with. They're starting to understand that the art of the deal isn't just the title of a book, it's how Trump operates. And they can work with that. They can make deals.
I don't agree with the work. I think the Democrats are ideologues. I don't think they have any interest in working with him. I know they don't have any work.
Take a look at the Laken-Riley law that just passed. You had 30 Democrats stand up and support the law, where before you didn't have that. You now have Democrats who have been assigned to DOJ, who are going to be working to cut government spending. So yes, there are Democrats who are working with the Republicans. We're seeing it. You saw Fetterman meet with him and say point blank, he represents the people of Pennsylvania, and the people of Pennsylvania voted for Trump. So he is going to be working with him. And watch, when votes get close in the Senate, you're going to see Fetterman be the new Joe Manchin and be a thorn in the side of the Democrats.
I would agree with that, and I think your points are well-founded. I think my bigger point is that the cooperation is the cooperation. We'll see how that goes. But the foolish effort of people like Schumer and others, you're just fighting against a tidal wave, a tsunami. Just sometimes you got to know when to fight, like that old song, know when to fold them, know when to close them. And there's a season for everything. But Chuck, who's never been a master of communications, let's just say that, is picking the wrong time to go mano on mano. Do you agree with that one?
Yeah, they're going to have to learn that if they don't work with Trump, if they do pull this stuff that, again, it's a minority of them, but it's a very vocal and unfortunately a powerful minority that is just determined to stop Trump. Well, take a look at the electoral map. Every district in America, even the ones Harris won, shifted towards the right. If you don't listen to your voters, you are going to be out. And we're already starting to see this in deep blue California, in deep blue Connecticut, where there are now centrist Democrats and Republicans working together to get some of these legacy Congress people out of office in 2 years.
Thank God for that. And speaking of listening, we listen to our listeners, don't we?
We do. And of course, we always want to hear what you have to say. You can contact us on the Carnivore Radio Facebook page or go to xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking, what issues are important to you, and where do you stand on what's going on? We'd love to hear it. And of course, as long as you're there, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Looking for a great 2025, Dr. Eric E.
It's a great day for America. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.